I didn't realize I signed up for a couple like mobile workshops.
We'll call this meeting to order. We have a quarterly workshop Tuesday, October the 21st of this year, 25. And so I call it to order, and I see there's no public here so far. So we'll exclude the public comment portion. And number 3 on the item is workshop by the town manager, Stephen Steese, about the delivery of documents and covenants that we are going to discuss regarding the green space with the county.
What does that say?
PowerPoint has something. All right, so tonight we have 2 things that are a little unique that we're asking council to take action on as at the workshop here, just because of timeliness. One of which is this conservation covenants and the grant agreement that we have related to the property we're working through, the Green Penny, the 2 properties that County Council has approved. We're trying to get to closing on those within the time period that we have our contract in place with to purchase it with the owner, and I'll go through that here in a second. And then we have another one that Chris has that he's going to present next on the right-of-way in Buckwalter. We are trying to get these in place so that we can get some stuff finalized with this, like the covenants. We actually received the covenants today from the county. They were promised to us last Tuesday or Wednesday, and that's one of the reasons we're trying to execute this at this meeting, is because we're trying to close by the middle of November on this property, and with the council meeting in November, it's the only opportunity we have to vote between now and then, so we wanted to get first reading to you tonight. So, a little bit of background. Council authorized the signing of the purchase and sale agreement for the 2 parcels of land owned by Foothills for a cost of $2.24 million. We put it under control with the intent that we were going to apply to the Beaufort County Green Space Program. About 18 months later, here we are, and have it approved. The Green Space Program allows municipalities to receive a financial contribution to purchase the land in exchange for placing conservation covenants on the property in perpetuity. We've worked through the due diligence and approval process with Beaufort County over the last several months. While working through there, we also made an application to the South Carolina Conservation Bank. They are also a bank that provides funding for covenants to provide restrictions on property. Both these processes ran concurrently, and we have received approval from both entities for funding to support this purchase. So what does that look like? So we're eligible to be reimbursed for the purchase of the property and our due diligence costs we've had during this process. So the due diligence includes a survey, title, appraisal, a phase 1 environmental. We're also doing a tree and topo, and we will be also doing a canopy survey so that we can identify the canopy coverage as part of our conservation easement. They will cover the cost for all of that. Beaufort County, they agreed at their September 22nd council meeting to award us the total cost of all the land minus the easement that exists for a potential roadway through the property. So they approved $2,143,678 to go towards the purchase and due diligence of the property. They require a grant agreement and a covenant for these funds. So what you're going to be approving tonight is the first reading of the grant agreement and the first reading of the covenants that the county would put on the property. The South Carolina Conservation Bank approved at their September 17th meeting $146,600 awarded towards due diligence and closing costs. They also require a grant agreement. So what you'll be approving tonight is their first reading for their grant agreement. So when County Council approves the use of a green space program money, the applicant is agreeing to place his conservation easement or covenant on the property in perpetuity. We also agree to a grant agreement which incorporates the language of the county ordinance into the contract. And so the terms outline that The language of it incorporates the language of the Beaufort County Green Space Program, the ordinance that they adopted. It also provides allowable uses. So these were put in here before we actually got the grant agreement. So there are some things in there that may change between first and second reading. But just to give you some of the allowable uses would be walking trails, boardwalks, nature trails, environmental, historical, and land planning education. So if we want to have places where people could go out and see natural habitats of birds or anything like that. Nature viewing, low impact parking areas. So that may be gravel parking lots, smaller parking lots, different clusters to make sure they're not heavily impacting the property. Open air shelters, picnic areas, pavilions, stuff like that. And then there's outlines building and other support structures deemed to be essential to allowed uses. One of the covenants, one of the requests we're making back to the county based on the covenants we received today is we're going to want to allow non-programmed recreational. So for example, if we want to put a playground as part of the nature trail, whether it's a nature playground or something like that, based on what they have in their documents, we don't know, there's some question on whether that would be allowed or not. So we want to get some clarity on that. If we wanted to put something out there like Frisbee golf, where you put the little disc, the nets out there would be questions on whether that would be allowable or not. So we want to make sure there's just some clarification. So as we look to define how we may want to build this area out for parks, like trails, nature trails, pavilions, future use, that we make sure that we have the definitions clear on what is allowed and not allowed on the property. We also want to make sure that our hands aren't tied on putting in, when we start talking about nature trails, whether we want to allow bikes on them, whether that's going to be questionable or not from the county. So we want to make sure all those uses are clarified and that we get those squared away. We'll make sure between first and second reading that we have everything finalized and that our intent is that nothing will be more restrictive than what you're already seeing tonight. Anything you come back with would be less restrictive on the property as we go forward.
Stephen?
Yes, sir.
May I ask a question, please? So you just made a comment about bikes. Explain that.
So, for example, when you start talking about nature trails, if you do plain nature trails, they may be good for walking, it may be good for like trail bikes to be able to go out and ride. You may want to open it up to horses to go out. We don't have very many, but we may want to. Based on the covenants as they've written them, like bikes or anything like that would not be allowed on the property for any of the trails or anything that are in place.
Are you saying motorized bikes?
No, we're talking about like dirt bikes,
Okay.
like mountain bikes. Like
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, non-powered mountain bikes. So we don't know what uses we want to allow in there now. We just want to make sure that we don't restrict ourselves to something like that not being allowed.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to make a nature trail, we really don't care. I won't say we don't care, but whether a bike or a walker or a runner or something like that uses it, the trail doesn't change, so we want to make sure that it doesn't limit it, and we end up having to enforce not allowing bikes on a trail that we may build through the woods. So we'd rather allow that than we would have to go out there and try to police somebody on a trail bike wanting to ride to the nature trails. So we'd rather be able to allow that use than have to police stuff on that behalf. So some of the other things we're talking about is the percentage of upland acres that may be developed and stuff like that. They're looking at limiting that to around 15%. I don't think that that's much of an issue. And that's one of the reasons we're getting a canopy survey is because they also want to limit the amount of canopy that can be disturbed. So we want to define that canopy so that we can have a baseline that we're going from. We also want to make sure that we're looking to remove any easements, right-of-ways, utilities, because there's power lines that run right through the middle of some of the property. So we want to make sure that they're not saying that the power line runs through it that takes up our use for the property. So we're working on that language as well. And actually what they put in there mirrors our wetland buffer language where it requires a 50-foot buffer from all wetlands. So already matches what we have. So then there's the grant agreements. So pretty much the grant agreements all outline that the documents, the maximum amount of green space money that can be pledged and how it can be reimbursed. It identifies the property, acreage, the grantees, and the conditions for disbursements, which includes closing, title commitments, and so forth like that. So once we approve the grant agreement and the covenants, our goal is to close and record all of these at one time. And that's why we're trying to be timeliness on this, because if not, we have to close and then we'll have to come back and almost do a second closing to record all the covenants and the grant agreements and everything with it. So we're wanting to do it all at one time to just be efficient and make sure it's all recorded properly.
Staff got the covenants today,
Yes.
draft covenants from the county, attorney representing the county, and you can see that it's been significantly edited by staff and our office already today. So we're trying to get it back out the door as fast as we can.
So the Conservation Bank, they, after their approval, they require a grant agreement as well. One thing that is nice is the Green Penny actually used the state Conservation Bank's grant agreement as the basis for theirs, so they're almost identical. So if we're good with the grant agreement on this one, then we're good with the grant agreement on the other. So we feel comfortable in moving forward with both of those. And then again, they've pledged $146,600 towards the closing costs. So what you have for consideration tonight is the approval of the terms of 2 grant agreements, again, very similar to each other. You also have the terms of the conservation covenant. This will be the first reading of it. And like we said, there will be some minor amendments we're assuming between first reading and second reading, but nothing that would be significant enough in nature that would require a concern from legal that we would have to start over with first reading again. And then after the approval will be 2 readings of the ordinance again, so you'll have first reading tonight, second reading at the November council meeting. That's outlined here. As a note, and like I stated earlier, we've extended our purchase and sell agreement with Foothills to the extent possible. Due to the length of the Green Penny process, we've run up against it. Just as a reminder, we applied for these Green Penny funds in April of '24, and we finally got approval from County Council in September. So that's how long it took to the county to go through the process and get approval for us. So this will allow the covenants to be recorded at closing, which is scheduled to be done as soon, pretty much immediately after the council meeting in November. I'll be more than glad to answer any questions. And if you do not have any, I do have a recommended motion for approval if council is good.
I have a question. The uses that we want to make sure that it's allowed.
Yes, sir.
Recreation didn't seem to fit in that description.
That's one of the requests that we'll send back to them is we want to add in passive recreation uses because they did not include that in their draft that they sent to us.
Can you think of why recreation wouldn't automatically be something that they would accept?
So this is their base guidelines of what they've used on previous ones. I think this is different from their other properties they've given funds to purchase. Like they gave $1 million to purchase the plantation in Jasper County. That's a different use than us buying it as a town entity to try to use it. Because one of the things that's required or that's outlined as the purpose for purchasing it is to provide public access to the property. So one of the ways to provide public access is through recreational activities, whether it's trails, outlooks, passive recreation, and making sure that those uses are allowed. So again, these are their base covenants they've used on all their other purchases. So I just think it's a unique thing, so that's why we're asking for it to be added. I don't think they omitted it for any particular reason, except for they just haven't had that request for any other properties that they've been participating in right now.
Anything else?
Yeah, I just, I'd like to make sure it's broad so they don't, you're not just saying we're gonna do Frisbee.
Right.
We want recreation to be at our discretion.
Well, and I agree 100%, and that was part of the conversation we had today is to try to, because they had some things that were very narrowed, is to leave them broad because the last thing we want to get is every time we want to do something on the property is to get into an argument with the county on the definition of what defines cultural, or what defines, we'll go back to the term. Like, what is buildings and other support structures deemed essential to support allowed use? If we have to put a maintenance shed out there for the trails, are they gonna argue, are we gonna get into an argument whether a maintenance shed is considered a building or other structure deemed essential? Or are they gonna say, no, that's actually a building and it's not allowed? So we wanna make sure that we leave it broad like you outlined, so that we don't get into that battle every time we wanna go do something on the property. One of the things to go along with that's in there is they want a master plan for the site, which we're used to. We do that. And it's very similar to what we've done with rural and conservation with Oyster Factory. We have like a master plan that they've approved as part of rural and conservation, that so long as we stay within that master plan, that we're good, and they're kind of using that as the same kind of basis for this, as we would put together a master plan, they would review it, approve it, we would all have agreement on that, and then so long as we stay within that, we would be good to do whatever we want and operate within the property.
Ms. Burton?
My questions were along the same lines as Councilman Hamilton's, and so I have no further questions, except, is there a pond on the property? I feel that we talked about one in the past, but
There's
maybe I'm thinking about
wetlands.
but not a pond. Because I was just questioning about if there was, and maybe again, it was an adjacent property that we talked about, but if fishing would also fall under,
I would think that
passive
would
recreation.
technically probably, it would fall under passive, but that would be one that, again, they may argue and say that based on the original covenants they sent, that may or may not fit within that, so we would want, that's why we want it to be a little broader. But I'm not sure if there's a pond or if there's just wetlands on this one.
I mean, years ago, I moved that site, and I mean, it may be there, but I don't remember,
Okay.
recall. So on the vein that they're asking the questions about, and the reason I asked about bikes, like not motorized necessarily, but I was thinking in terms of, the path that we're building now, and eventually that will make a turn 90 degrees and come back down to tie into existing pathway down.
170.
Yeah, well, down Lupton Parkway. And so it's not a stretch to think by the time it gets down toward the hospitals, you could eventually bicycle over to this property as well, so I mean, that's conceivable.
Conceivable.
So that's why that's why I asked the question on that, and even the pavilion, you may want a bathroom out there, I'm supposing. So yes, so the clarity that they were speaking to, will you have any idea on this by the time of the second reading or not?
That is our goal.
Okay.
We, like I said, we spent a good portion of our legal meeting this afternoon going through this and going through the details, and we were putting back the recommendations to them. We have to have it back to them by tomorrow or Thursday, and our goal is to have a final agreement that we're comfortable with for y'all at the November council meeting.
Thank you. So with that being said, you need a motion.
Yes, sir.
Somebody like to make that motion?
I'm happy to make a motion. I make a motion to approve as presented on the screen.
I'd be happy to second that motion.
Well, that was well done. Any further discussion on the topic? None. So all in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and again, we try not to bring y'all stuff to vote for at workshops. They're specific for a reason, so I apologize to have to do that tonight, but thank y'all for doing so.
Well, we have Mr. Forrester, item number 2, consideration of an ordinance and ratification of property owned by the town for Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. So this is actually second and final reading. This was on consent agenda at your last council meeting. So this is just wrapping this up, and we are in reference to the Oak Walter Place. Outlined in yellow on there is the LAC property. And that blue line coming down into that yellow area is a Beaver Jasper water line. And there is a blanket easement over Buckwalter Place for utilities, but a new policy at Beaver Jasper is that as they do projects, they're looking for site-specific easements. And so that's what this does. It allows them an easement for their water line there, and it will allow us to get our water meter put in place for our new building there at the bottom of the page. And the estimated opening date is November or December 1st, rather, which I discussed at the last meeting. Any questions?
Any questions?
No.
So we need a motion for this as well.
I move to approve the motion that's on the screen.
We need a second.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's all say, everyone in favor of, aye?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. I'm here tonight to give you some updates on some park projects. And the first one on the agenda is a proposed second pavilion at Oscar Frazier Park. As you know, there was a 2018 master plan that the Rotary Center and the town of Bluffton has been working on for the past 6 years or so, and that work has all been completed as of last year at this time when we finished the splash pad. And what we've noticed since the splash pad has been completed is there's a big demand for the pavilion itself. There's oftentimes when we go over there, there's people setting up for parties, multiple parties for birthdays, family events, aerobic exercises, all that time. So there's a big demand right now out there. So if you build it, they will come, and that's really what's happened. That's the problem. We're seeing a bit of a problem there where there's multiple people trying to get use of that pavilion, and some people will lock it down for the whole day. You know, they'll get there at 6 o'clock in the morning for a party that's in the evening, just so that they have access to it. So Stephen asked us to take a look at potential locations for a second pavilion that might not impact the design of the park and would be sympathetic to the park. So this image here shows 4 potential locations that we presented to the executive committee. Number 1 was basically immediately adjacent to the existing pavilion out in the lawn area. It's close to all the facilities, all the amenities, the playground, the splash pad and all, but it's actually a bit close to the pavilion itself, and it takes up some of the lawn area. So that was one we kind of threw out, but it was one that I wanted to show for consideration. Location number 2 on this image is kind of the south end of the event lawn area, kind of along the tree line. And that is something that would require a little bit of it's a little bit further removed from some of the amenities, and it would require a sidewalk extension to it. Location number 3 was a location between the existing sidewalk and recreation court. It's kind of limited in size, especially now since we've built some golf cart parking in there. So it's really limited in terms of the size of a pavilion that could go in that location. And location number 4 was kind of on the north end of the event pavilion, close to the perimeter trail, kind of backing up to some existing trees, would be adjacent to the playground area and pretty close to the parking, which is important, and also in the restrooms. So we presented these options to executive committee, staff members, and department heads, and they recommended location number 4, which is shown on this image. There's an aerial view on the left-hand side that shows the approximate location, where it's backing up against the trees there. And then on the right-hand side, there's a picture of that location. We'd have to remove a bench in that location to include it, but that's the possible location we can consider. And this is the recommendation from the committee. In plan view, we're looking at a 25 by 25 pavilion, no restrooms, just an open-air pavilion to allow another place for parties to take place and events to take place. It's very close to the trail and close to the restrooms and the parking, and that's good. And the dash line around the perimeter of this is showing the overhang, so we're projecting to have a wide overhang so that you have protection from the elements from underneath the structure. This is an elevation. Again, it's a simple pavilion, but it does include a cupola. The roof color is the same as the existing pavilion. The posts have a similar detail as the existing pavilion. So we tried to carry through the architectural design so it's consistent with the existing pavilion, just a smaller pavilion. And then we tried to nestle it into the trees that are located in that area. Just schedule next steps. If you elect to proceed with this project, we could get the design done probably by Christmas time, bid it shortly after the first of the year, and be ready to construct something in the spring or the summer. So as far as questions and discussion, my questions to you were really, does the town council agree with the recommended location of the pavilion suggested by the executive committee? And does the town council agree with the scale and design of this pavilion proposed by the architect? Those are two questions that I have for this.
Ms. Burton?
How big is the existing pavilion that is out there?
How big is it? It's 35 foot wide by, what is it, 50 maybe? So it's 25 by 35.
And that's going to does that include the restrooms?
Now, I'm talking about the open air section of it is 25 by 35.
Okay, so this one that you're proposing would be just slightly smaller.
It's definitely smaller than that, but not, it's a good size. It would accommodate 6 picnic tables.
What is our pavilion policy? Is it just a first come, first served?
It is first come, first serve. I'm
And
surprised.
they can hold it for the entire day if they want to?
They could. You know, people start decorating in the morning. I've been there in the morning when I've seen 2 parties setting up simultaneously. Some people bring out pop-up tents, you know, that kind of thing. So there's a need, I believe, for a covered gathering area.
Let me comment. I see them both frequently, just walking, and I don't know it's the best policy. I personally have liked the fact that we don't have reservations. It seems to work, and I've even seen at Dubos, I've seen 3 birthday parties simultaneously, one under the pavilion and 2 off to the side. Even this one over there where the Oscar Fraser is now, I mean, I do see multiple ones in a day when I'm out walking and stuff like that, but it seems to work, you know,
But
so
then
I
I
don't
guess
know.
other people can't. I just hate that somebody could take it for the entire day and then everybody else can't use it.
I don't know about the entire day part. I can't speak to that. So.
But that's a whole different conversation. Can you go back to your slide of the locations, showing the 4 different options? I do agree that if we chose to move forward with this, option 4 does make the most sense with it. Looks like it has very minor tree impacts, which is important, that we don't need any more sidewalks. Again, I think that's important. And it is close to the playground. Any idea of how much it would cost at all?
Well, our pavilion's out at New Riverside Barn Park. We had a small pavilion, which would be actually a little bit smaller than this, was $175,000. And the larger pavilion was $250,000, somewhere in that area. So custom pavilions, they cost a little bit more, but in this case, we're trying to match character of an existing pavilion out there.
That's all my questions.
I like option 1 because it's close to the other pavilion where the bathrooms is. And the size is compatible to what's existing. I don't visit enough to see the impact, but I think
Well, let me pick a different number. So I was looking at 3 and 4. But I think the 4, like Ms. Burton said, the fact that the sidewalks are there and less tree canopy, I think you're dealing with there. That's my impression. I could live with that. And it's close to the playground. So, I could say 2 or 3, but that would just not get you anywhere. So I would say 4. Any other questions on this so far? You have 2 questions on your list?
The other one was, is the character and scale acceptably, it's smaller than the space available in the existing pavilion, but it's 25 by 25.
Let me ask the question. Under the existing pavilion, when you actually look at the piece that's not bathroom, exclude that. Is that not the same size as what the open space is?
Underneath the pavilion that's open air, I believe is 25 by 35.
I'm saying though, is the scale of that on where the existing pavilion is, maybe I'm misunderstanding you, where the existing pavilion is, take the bathroom out of it, out of the equation, the concrete right there poured, forget the bathroom. Is that a similar scale to this new one?
This new one would be slightly smaller than that.
Slightly smaller than
10
the
foot
scale?
narrower.
Yeah, the one with the bathrooms is 25 by 35, this one would be 25 by 25.
Okay, I got it, okay.
To get the same scale, you would have to go out into the lawn to get that same kind of scale. And one of the reasons that we looked at the options we did was we were trying not to impact the field of dreams and not trying to leave it as open as possible.
Well, there are soccer games and stuff on that field. I've seen that. And I've even seen a tournament there, a girls' tournament, with multiple. Well, that was not soccer, that one was volleyball. So, anyway, I would say 4. Okay,
Any other questions?
moving on to number 4.
Well, the second presentation.
Oh, are you done?
Pardon me?
There's no motion associated with this, I just need direction to
No
proceed
motions.
forward. Okay, the second item on the agenda is related to the, might need this. Buck Island Road Park. This is the property that you purchased in March 2024. It's 15.12 acres. 8.53 is upland and 6.59 is wetland. It's on the corner of Bluffton Parkway and Buck Island Road across from Eagles Field. One of the things we did initially to start the planning on this is try to figure out the size of the upland area and what would actually fit on it. And we tried to do a little comparison of existing parks. And what this is an aerial view of overlaying, in this case, Oscar Fraser Park on top of the upland area for Buck Island Road Park. So this is basically showing the entire Field of Dreams area, plus the community center and the parking associated would actually fit in this upland acreage for Buck Island Road Park. So that's the scale of the property that you're dealing with. It's not a new Riverside, but it's something smaller, and in between it's larger than our downtown parks, but it's
All uplands.
that's all uplands there, what's shown there. And obviously, the big, large land eaters are really the big fields, the athletic fields, soccer fields, ball fields. You may be able to get one of those on here, but you might not have enough parking. So this is showing kind of a lot of different uses in there, but not one great big field use, athletic use. So just wanted to show you these comparisons so you'll get an understanding of the scale of the property. This one shows Oyster Factory Park. Basically, all the amenities related to Oyster Factory Park would fit within this upland area of Buck Island Road Park. You know, all the parking, the event area, the pavilion, Bluffton Seafood, and Garden House, they all fit within this site. And Buckwalter Place, the same thing. Both the Evercore side, the west side, and the east side of the town park would fit in this property. So let me give you a little bit of detail of what planning work we've done so far. After you bought the property, we engaged Wooden Partners as a park planner to kind of help us out with getting started with public engagement and some conceptual design. The second thing we did is we met with them in a kickoff meeting. We had 13 members of town staff, mostly department heads and executive staff. And we kind of met with them in a charrette format to kind of determine what kind of program elements, what kind of recreation elements should be considered for this property. And this is before I did that scale comparison exercise, so it's kind of interesting. They picked up on some of that without even seeing that. So we met on the 19th, and the list of items that they came up was the pavilion and restrooms, a small community building, playgrounds for all ages, multi-purpose field for pickup sports, not necessarily regulation-sized fields. And also, they mentioned the fact that we should consider maybe synthetic turf in some of our fields, as opposed to all natural grass. A lot of the schools are doing that now on their property. So, perimeter trails and boardwalks, make sure we connect to Bluffton Parkway pathway system that would take us to Buck Island Road sidewalks. Also try to interface with the wetland itself so that you can get out in the wetland and observe native habitats and such. Pump track is something that they mentioned as a consideration. That was something that came up when we were pretty much finished with New Riverside Barn Park. A person came, I remember, to town council and offered the suggestion we should consider a pump track.
What is that?
I was about to ask.
That basically is a track for bicycles where it has a lot of hills and valleys and banked turns, and it's
Made for smaller kids on bikes.
It's not something that we've seen in Beaufort County yet, but I think they're coming right now. So that would be something new to consider here. The committee also kind of talked about things they probably didn't want to put here. And again, this is up for your suggestions and recommendations, but maybe no dog park, pickleball, splash pad. We were kind of concerned about some of the maintenance of these items and some of the size requirements for them. And skate park, and obviously the big athletic fields was something that they mentioned as well. So then the next opportunity that came up was that Stephen and Heather and Kevin got an invite from Bluffton Middle School to come for Career Day. And during that, they kind of flipped the switch on them and kind of went and presented options for them to consider to get their opinion of what they would like to see the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders at this park. They're the people that live in the neighborhood, they're the people that are closest to it. So I'll go into that a little bit more detail in a second here. So in order to do that, I need to get some imagery together from the park consultants. These are some images they put together for, community center. Again, they mentioned they'd like to see it maybe smaller than the Rotary Center with no kitchen. The kitchen's been kind of a maintenance headache for us. So that was something that the committee kind of suggested in this location as a possibility. Open air pavilion like our DeVos Park and Oscar Fraser Park pavilions with restrooms. And these are the images that we sent to, with Kevin and Stephen and Heather to the Bluffton Middle School for their presentations, because we thought they would be more interested in all the recreational elements. So I'll go across the top, going left to right. You've got the artificial turf field. You got natural grass fields, some court games like sand volleyball. The second row down would be left to right would be the wetland boardwalks. rather walking trails and then perhaps wider trails for multi-use trails for bikes and such. That's an image on the bottom left of a pump track, what it looks like. It's usually either asphalt or dirt, and it creates a lot of mounds. And I think you know if you go out to New Riverside Barn, that mound is a very popular thing. We didn't know it was going to be that popular, but it's very popular. So this is kind of another element that hasn't been used in one of our parks yet. And then bottom middle is just a typical playground equipment and another type of playground adventure, kind of free play, agility type course. So those are the images. Let's see. Yeah, those are the images that we presented at the middle school. So I'm going to ask you a quick question. Do you have any idea what you think the middle school wanted to see the most at this park?
Are we looking at the first screen or the second?
Both, either one.
And they had a chance to go off script and recommend anything they wanted to.
Yeah, that's true. Any guesses?
Mr. Hamilton?
I had to guess they didn't want to be outside.
Get them off their electronics.
Right.
Charging stations.
My guess would be either the adventure free play area or the basketball.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
I forgot to mention the zip line. That was another thing we put in there too, and the amphitheater. So those all things were in this presentation to the middle school.
Let me jump in too. That mound that you just spoke to, I was there with my grandchildren this weekend, and it's a trip. I was like, well, I kept watching one little girl about 3 years old that had the little, the little thing like a scooter that you stand on, and she get to the top of the hill, and her mother kept telling her, no, 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 and she was determined she was gonna ride that thing down that mound. She fell over 5 or 6 times. She never did ride it all the way down, but it was cute, and that place was jumping. The zip line is a busy thing at the park there. One thing I was always curious about, I don't know how it fits with the dynamics in the range, but the only basketball court around here is the one that you got put over there. And the only other one's out when you go all the way out to Buckwalter. So I didn't know what your thoughts were on something like that.
There's a covered one at MC Riley as well.
Is there?
Yeah. Matter of fact,
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's the one I'm thinking of.
That's the one that I
Craig
referred
got
one
that.
at Eagles Field,
Yeah.
too.
and that's one of Eagles Field.
And that's right across the street, actually, so.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts is that, and I'm probably going off script here, is that we need to get people from the community to parents as well, to be a part of that discussion. I don't think the middle school gives a kid perspective, but I would, even though they go to school there, they probably don't even live in that community.
Well, I
agree.
know.
I think having a community meeting where we put signs on,
Yeah, I agree.
you know, on Buck Island and Simmonsville and all around there, so we can truly get the parents input on what they would like to see is important to me.
The dots that you're showing, we've done that at other locations. Is that what you're saying we've done here?
That's what was done at the middle school. And we did that at New Riverside Barn Park. We got, the majority were adults, and a lot of them were from Sun City, and this was kind of an opportunity to really get the youth perspective. I'm not saying we shouldn't go do what we've done. We actually tried Mayfest and one of our concerts to set up, and they both got rained out. So we had surveys ready to go, and these boards there as well, but we got rained out.
So, I'm curious because, you know, we're targeting different ages. And so, for example, my grandchildren have almost progressed from Dubos. That's probably 0 to 5 or whatever, 6. I don't know what ages you're looking at. They're small. So then I've started going over more to Oscar. And then now I'm going to to the barn because you got the zip line and more activity out there. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, I don't know what age groups were out there. I saw a mixture of everything at the barn. I've been out there multiple times. Is that what you're trying to achieve
Yes.
here? Okay.
We're trying
Something
to
for
get all
everybody.
different age groups.
Right.
This is would not be as large as the barn park, but it would be a much larger than, let's say, Buckwater Place Park. You have a lot of different elements for 2 to 5s, 5 to 12s, agility items, different features that could accommodate different abilities.
So the volleyball and the pump track seem to be the predominant ones.
Yeah, the ones in yellow are the highest priority, and I put a rank beside them. Those were the highest, the most popular items selected by these students. They were each given 3 dots each, and they put them on these boards, and we got 563 responses. And so, number 1 was sand volleyball. So that caught me by surprise. I think Stephen probably felt the same way, but apparently at that school, volleyball is a big thing. So we don't have sand volleyball courts around here, so that would be something new to introduce to a different park. Number 2, obviously, is the artificial turf fields. You like that idea? Number 3 was playground equipment, all different types. We've got the, even above the ones that highlighted, there's a Ninja Fitness, Adventure Free Play. So all those in combination are popular items selected by these students. And then wetland, I was kind of surprised too, the wetland wildlife viewing, the boardwalk image was selected by a number of people. And then the pump track was up there pretty high as well. Then kind of honorable mention was the zip line and natural grass open fields.
On the volleyball, did y'all ask the question about sand ball court, or did they say to you sand, not instead of artificial?
No, it was labeled as sand volleyball.
It was labeled that way before, so whether it was sand or not, it could have been volleyball court.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So this is the responses we received from the students here. So I'm going to take it to the next step, at least show you a concept plan that represents these items. We can talk about going to get more input from the neighborhood and go to different functions and throw out surveys on the website, all those kinds of things. If that's what you desire to do, we can go do that. But we took it a step further just to show you, so we had something to show you to you tonight. This is a master plan that shows how do I get this thing to, It shows up here, it doesn't show up there.
No, it'll show up there too. Pick it up and put it down. Move it around.
Oh, well. There it is. Have to beat it a little bit, I guess. Okay. Over here on the right-hand side of the image is all of the legend items. There's a number associated with that, and it's shown on the master plan. So I'm going to try to use this mouse to show you where these things are. First item up there is open air pavilion with restrooms. Take the mouse down here, and that's shown right here, overlooking the synthetic turf field, and back behind it is the two play areas. So number 2, all this blue area is the play areas for the project. Number 4 over here is the sand volleyball courts. Number 5 across here is kind of a boardwalk into the wetlands. So basically 5 and 13 are boardwalk experiences to experience the wetland itself. Number 7 is a natural grass field. We kind of suggested that we might want to try the synthetic turf field, but we don't want to overdo it out of the box because they're expensive, and you can always rehabilitate a natural grass field. You have to replace the turf fields probably every 10 to 15 years, and the synthetic turf fields. So these 2 green areas, 7 and 8, show kind of a rectangular area within it of about 110 10 by 70, which would be accommodate kind of pickup football, pickup soccer, or youth level soccer, not full-size field in any stretch of the imagination. But that's kind of an indication where we're trying to project that it might be used just like Oscar Frazier Park is for soccer and football, for pickup games. Down here in the far right-hand corner, southeastern corner is the pump track. And up here where this little circular area is, we dashed in a 30 by 40 community center building, but that's something you all think is something we need to do. And then of course here's the parking for the project, and this is showing about 84 parking spaces. So this has a lot of different uses, and the parking is kind of designed to accommodate those particular uses. So some of the discussion items that I had related to this concept plan, again, we're not there yet because I think I'm hearing like we need to get more input from the public. But I'll go through these anyways just so you can think about them and maybe have some discussion there, stimulate some discussion. Does this concept plan generally meet what you had expected for the site? Are there any features that you would rather see in the park than what are currently shown in the concept plan? Do you think the small community center is needed at this location? And if yes, how do you see it being used and managed? And then the last thing I have is, I was kind of really getting ahead of myself. Do you think this project should be implemented in a single phase versus multiple phases? You know, we've done it both ways, where we've built a park over 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and when others like Newer's Barn Park, where we built it all in 2 phases. So those are kind of the discussion items I had. Again, as far as schedule, next steps, you have funded the design of this park in this fiscal year. There is no funding yet in fiscal year 27 for any construction, but if we were to flow through to that, that's kind of where we would go. Design would be finished at the end of this fiscal year, and then we would start bidding and construction, and construction could probably start as early as January 2027. So let me go back, I guess, to master plan, and then I will be opening up for some
Can you go back to where your questions were, please, and let us see if we can help you with your questions. And if somebody needs to go back to the master plan, we can do that. Ms. Burden, you want to start and see if you can give some guidance?
I'm happy to. I really would like to see another meeting, and I appreciate you trying to with the different Mayfest and the movie, but I would love to see a widely publicized community meeting that we hold for whether it be kids, including high schoolers, I hope would come, and any residents in that area to get their input. I think I'm very excited about this park. I think it's badly needed, but I want to make sure we get it right. And so I would love to see that happen sooner rather than later, so that we can stay on your time frame with design being finished or by July. But to be honest, I mean, I think a lot of these questions, I would like to wait until that meeting, except for the last one. I mean, I would love to see it done in a single phase and not try to, do it multiple times and get it done for them. But I think in order to answer the other ones, I'd rather have this community meeting first.
Ditto. And to add to that, we wouldn't even be having this discussion other than the fact that the members from that community said, we want a park. You have a park everywhere else, but you don't have a park in our community. We wouldn't even bought that property if it wasn't for the fact that we were trying to accommodate that community. And some of the things that I see here does not have that community in it. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I like the concept, but again, I think what's been stated is it could change based on additional input from the community. But I like the way that you went to the schools to get the kids engaged, to see what children were thinking that actually use the playgrounds. I like that concept a lot. But I will not say anything else till you're able to go do what they have proposed and have your community meeting and then see if the concept plan holds up at that point. It may or may not. It may be altered somewhat. But, and on the last one, I think when we go to build, I think we satisfy the needs of everyone when we're able to get it done in one sweep.
Stephen, earlier you wanted my help in getting a meeting together. I'm still willing to do that.
Well, and that's, we did this based on, like you said, the conversation we had, we wanted to bring it to y'all first and then take it to the community to make sure that when we take it to them, that when we start giving some ideas, that, because when we had the initial community meeting, we asked the public to give input on what they wanted to see, and we got 0 input at that meeting. So what we find is it's usually, just like with the kids, it's good to have some concepts and some ideas to show, to allow the community to say, hey, instead of the pump track, I'd like to see a basketball court, and help kind of placate, make that process easier and give them a vision to work with. So that's why we wanted to come tonight before we went to that, is to make sure that we were on the right direction and showed what we heard from the kids before we scheduled that. But I'll take all the help we can, and we'll look and try to get that done maybe before, between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Try to find a sweet spot in there before everybody disappears for the holidays, and try to get something maybe the 1st of December that we can work and get everybody together.
Very good.
Thank y'all.
Any other questions or input? So, thank you.
May I make a comment? Just a couple of things. I I want to point out that Bluffton Middle, that does represent that community. So the kids from that community go to Bluffton Middle, they're captured as part of this. You saw there was several hundred, a few hundred feedback. What was the total feedback?
563.
560. Yeah, so over 500 kids reflective of that area gave feedback on this. The only caution I give, and I think it's important that we do go back to the community, even though it didn't work the first time, the caution I give is to not let a few vocal adults outweigh 500 kids who are actually using these parks. I mean, this is great feedback. We haven't done this before, and this was a great idea. I think Heather or Stephen came up with the idea. They did a fantastic job with it. I just put that caution out there as we move forward.
I would say, I would recommend, and see what the others think. I mean, again, you can do the DOT process, and you've already got the numbers that you just quoted of the school children that already participated. Well, now you'll have another set of numbers, and for example, if somebody wants a basketball court, I didn't see where the majority of these children stated that, but just hypothetically, but then 3 others said, basketball court, you'd have to weigh that. Council would have to weigh that. So your point's well made. But I think there's a way to keep that balanced when you bring the information back. So.
I do think your point was well made, but one thing, I wonder if you could go back to the options you gave them for the dots, if we do want to consider that when we have this community meeting. I just want to make sure that there's nothing else.
Is this what you're looking for?
No.
Images?
Yes, please. This side and the side before. I just want to make sure there's nothing else that we want to add to it. For instance, I know you said the committee did not recommend any kind of splash pad, even though I know Councilman Hamilton really enjoys those.
No, I don't.
Or a pickleball, but I don't know if that's an option we should give
It's an adult game.
the community. Pickleball is?
Yeah.
Oh, is it? I feel like more younger kids are
I
doing
think it's an
it.
older,
Well,
Very loud.
the one reason we didn't include pickleball is whenever we did Oscar Frazier, again, same scale of heart, there was talks about there being rec courts there. And pickleball was one of the discussions, and council didn't want to go forward with that because of the noise for the surrounding residents.
Okay.
So that was why just giving you a reason why we put the kibosh on that.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're giving them all their options. Like if we're going to have them put dots, I want them to know that they can have a water thing if the majority of them vote for that.
I think too,
You have,
Sorry, the only other comment I would say, we wanted to make sure we had realistic expectations for the kids, for the students with this exercise. we didn't want to suggest a pool when that wasn't within, the parameters of something that we could accommodate, or a Six Flags or a Disney World. So we tried to at least, be realistic with some options, so that, we wanted people to think outside the box, but also be realistic, and we didn't want to, set anyone up for disappointment in the future.
Well, this is the most feedback that I know of that we've ever received on a park, especially from the children. 'Cause like you said, the Red Barn, I was there that day we did that, and it was mostly seniors. It wasn't the kids, so. All right, any other input?
I think we have the direction, and we'll get that set up.
So, with that being said, I need a motion and a second to adjourn.
I make the motion and second.
Okay.
Oh, we got a vote. All in favor?
Thank you.